Yeah,
way, right?
because it's just boxing mentality.
Yeah, sure.
And so he smiled and kind of laughed about that and thought, you know, a little clever answer. Right?
Yeah, it was. I think it's a clever answer as well.
And so then we went from there, and then sure enough, a psychologist spoke with Professor Kurt and said, yeah, he's ready to go.
Good.
And so then it was getting all prepared and prepped for the surgery.
Mm-hmm.
And so I remember laying in a bed once again. It seems to be a thing when it comes to spinal cord injury.
Sure. Yeah.
You're going to be laying in a lot of beds.
Yeah.
And I was laying back, and my mom was there. So my mom had come with me. I brought her down as with me. And Stem Cells Inc. was very generous. They paid for everything. Paid for my mother to be there. Paid for me to travel to Switzerland and be set up in the hospital initially for the surgery. And we spent a month and a half there.
Wow.
Yeah,
a month and a half there.
And so
how long were you? You were 3 months in Parkwood?
I was 3 months in Parkwood.
3 months in Parkwood and a month and a half in Switzerland.
And then a month and a half, and then 2 months out and about, and getting used to life here in London.
Yep.
And then off to Switzerland for a month and a half.
Wow.
So it was very quick.
Yeah.
Very quick with my disability.
Yeah.
So then I remember the last thing was I was laying in bed. And my mom was there because before I went to the surgery room, so obviously Mom was there and just saying, that this is everything, right? Like this is going to be life changing.
Yeah.
This is and this and that, and so she started crying over top of me and just because I was going in for a surgery. You know that any surgery that things can always go wrong.
Right.
So Mom was there and so. I told her everything was going to be okay.
Yeah.
And so I was.
So you were comforting her at this point.
I was comforting her, and I felt pretty good. I'm like, let's do this,
Yeah.
And so sure enough, got carted in, and boom, don't remember anything after that. Instead, I wake up to a wonderful, beautiful nurse in Switzerland, and they have a nice, calm, like post-surgery room, where it's like a little hotel,
right?
And here she is bringing me a nice coffee, so I can drink through a straw because I had to lay on my back.
Right.
And to eat because I had been under for whatever amount of time on anesthesia and everything like that. So it was nice. It was comforting actually waking up. And so my mom took a picture, which we'll have to share. Is I give the thumbs up when I wake up. I still look a little bit daisy, but I give the thumbs up. Like I'm good,
Yeah.
And so then and so that's when that was a big game changer for me with my disability. Big game changer was that stem cell transplant for research. As much as you don't see me up and walking right now, it was an absolute game changer because right now they are moving forward with the study.
Yep.
And so as a result of the stem cell transplant, which everyone I'm sure is curious about, I actually have received some neurological change actually as a result of the stem cell transplant.
No shit.
So as much as this is phase 1, they put it as phase 1, phase 2 because it's the safety phase.
Right.
They got to show that they're now adding volume to the spinal cord. So what they did is they had an orthopedic surgeon open you up. So a bone doctor opened me up.
Yep.
He removed some back of the spine bone. And then the neurosurgeon goes in, and now he's looking at this little spinal cord that's no bigger than the width of your pinky finger. And now he's looking at this thing, and he's going to go in there with just his eyes and his hands, and he's going to cut open that central nervous system, expose it to the world, which was the biggest scare, that central nervous systems, blood-brain barriers are not supposed to be open to the world.
Right.
He opened it up to the world. And then he did 4 injections above and below my injury site of my spinal cord.
What did he inject?
So he injected what's called neural stem cells. So these neural stem cells, which people ask me, they were originally taken from a 20-week old aborted fetus.
Okay.
And so they took the cells from the brain of this 20-week-old aborted fetus.
Okay.
And then they clarified them, cultured them, and then grown millions. That Stem Cells Inc. has the patent for.
Wow.
And why this child was aborted, I don't know. This was never discussed.
Right.
It could have been obviously because of health complications. It wasn't like, everyone's like, for someone to give up a child for research. No, that's not the case. I'm sure it was because of whatever complications, this and that, and then it was to be asked for research.
Sure. And they're just taking the best of a bad situation.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So the reason why they do that too, because I've asked Professor Kurt and I've done my own research, is why don't they use the cells from our own bodies?
Yeah.
Well, as we age, so do our cells.
Right.
So it's no longer practical to use cells that are aged to be put into a very complex area, being our central nervous system, and to get them to work basically, because they've aged. So they don't have the excitability as the cells from a fetus or from a young child. So those cells are they have a lot of excitability. So there's a better potential for them to go into the central nervous system and to regrow new nerves, new tissue, and to remake those connections, and to make those motor neuron and those sensory neuron connections again. So that's why they decided to use these cells. And then it's like, well, then why also can you not do this through intravenous injection, inject the cells in the blood and do this or that, or why does it have to be a surgery, and why right at the location? Well, that question was answered as well too. Professor Kurt, from all of his research and his studies, he believes by putting the potency of the cell transplant directly above and below the injury site, the dead tissue, because it has a better chance for survival as well too, and also you're putting all the cells in the area of the damage, and you're not worrying about losing cells or anything like that. So you just put an abundance of cells right into that area. And then they said, well, why didn't you put it into the damaged tissue area? Well, that's a good question for a lot of people, is because the dead tissue would not be great for survival for new cells. The new cells still need to survive and eat, so they're better harvested when they're put into just above and below the damaged tissue, which is now a dead tissue. It's best above and below into live tissue, because then they can use that as a fuel source to help start migrating into the damaged tissue area to rebuild tissue. So
it's kind of mind blowing.
It's very interesting, actually. So that's what they call. This is what's called bioengineering, because they're using biological tissue and cells and engineering it to rebuild things. So it's very exciting.
So what did you notice? Tell me. You said that you noticed some change. What kind of things? How did you notice this change?
So the biggest change, which is an ultimate win for someone with a spinal cord injury, because there's a lot of pain when it comes to a neurological injury. When it comes to a spinal cord injury, a lot of spinal cord injuries can comment on pain. So there's going to be the physical pain, but there's also going to be what's called the neuropathic pain. So that's where I felt like my right foot, as much as I can't feel anything below my injury, my right foot in my head felt like it was on fire constantly. Like my foot was burning. Like it felt like needles and burning sensation.
And this wasn't the foot that you lost.
And this isn't the foot I lost. So this wasn't a phantom limb experience. Because people have asked, do you have phantom limb pain? No, I don't. And I don't because I think it's because I'm paralyzed.
That's what I
don't have phantom limb pain. But on my right foot, the foot that I do have, it was always on fire. I would have to massage my foot before I go to bed because of the pain. And so then I had a lot of physical back pain as well too, a lot of pressure in my lower back, and these are pains that I technically can't feel, but my brain is telling me that I have these pains. So a great result from the stem cell transplant is that within about 3 months I fell right off the pain scale.
No kidding.
I showed up and now I'm pain free. I don't take any medication for pain, nothing. I'm a pain-free spinal cord injury disabled man. That's for me, I think, is a win.
Absolutely.
But then moving forward, I came home here to London and I started advocating for the technology that I saw in Switzerland. They have this thing called the Locomat. It's a walking machine. Well,
sure. Is that what I saw?
So that's what you saw. So sure enough, we learned in science once again, and they did it on a cat study with spinal cord injuries, that by moving the lower body to try and make those connections, it encourages neurons to reconnect, to make new pathways to the brain, to encourage movement.
I see.
So to encourage voluntary movement as well too. And so
so that's a fake it till you make it kind
fake it till you make it.
Literally though,
So that's where I came home, and I wanted to be in walking therapy because I just took a stem cell transplant, and my physiotherapist, who is an absolute wonderful woman here in town that I was seeing outside of hospital. She has an amazing facility called New Physio here in London, and she said, let's get these cells moving, So we worked in the parallel bars, and then sure enough, Parkwood was looking and investing into getting donations for the walking technology, this local mat that I've been talking about from Switzerland.
Wow.
Well, sure enough, Chris Hadfield came into town, our astronaut Chris Hadfield.
He went to the Sioux too, right?
I believe he's been all over. I believe he's originally from Sarnia, I think it is.
Okay, he's from Sarnia. I think he had a relative that went to Sioux College.
Yes. So
okay.
he's a good so he's a good old Canadian.
Right. I saw the books there.
Yes,
so I was wondering.
I got the books and the signatures and got to meet him because they wanted Parkwood asked if I would demonstrate the new local mat that they've gotten for Parkwood for rehabilitation. Well, obviously I jumped all over it because also I was going to meet Chris Hadfield.
Right. Yeah.
And so I got to show off the local mat to Chris Hadfield, and we did actually a very inspirational video for the Parkwood Foundation. So you can find that on YouTube. There's a St. Joseph Locomotor Training Gives Hope video on YouTube that we developed to raise awareness and funds towards the technology.
Sure.
And then we did the convention here in town with Chris Hadfield, and it was great. You know, he gave his big speech in Parkwood. We got to show off the video, and I got to be a part of that, and it was a wonderful experience for me.
Very cool.
And to know as well too that I've taken the stem cell transplant. So now with all the education from Switzerland, I got talking to the right people at Parkwood as well too, and discussing why we need this technology. And now Professor Dalton Wolf and a team of wonderful people at Parkwood are actually designing what's going to be the locomotor training protocol for persons with neurological injuries caused by trauma disease that inhibits them with mobility.
Right.
So that's where now they're designing a protocol that will actually be used internationally. That's all coming out of here in London.
This
will be used across the map. This protocol, so that when someone gets injured and they come in, it's like this is the therapy you're going to experience now that we have worked everything out. So very exciting.
That's really exciting.
Yeah, no. So it's been an amazing roller coaster. It's been a very educational roller coaster. Yeah. I've met a lot of amazing people. Yeah. I've gotten back into sports.
I saw some
from the photos.
And
so I got into some throwing sports right away.
Yep.
So we do seated throwing sports, and I met a lot of amazing people in the disabled community as well too.
Right.
And so that's another comment where I wouldn't change certain things in my life because I've met some people I've never would have met before. Right. And the disabled community means a lot to me now.
Absolutely.
It means a lot to me because I've just met so many wonderful people and families, and it just seems to be its own little world. And I wouldn't have gotten to experience that had I not been disabled. Right. Because you're not welcomed into the disabled community unless you're disabled.
Sure, fair enough.
It's a tough crowd.
Right? Fair enough.
And so I did some throwing sports and did some throwing in Brampton for shot put and discus, and it was very exciting. Yeah. And then I wanted to try more sports, and then I got on with the sledge hockey team here in London, the London Blizzard sledge hockey team. And sure enough, I got in at the right time and won a championship with the team, which is very exciting, and it was very, very challenging. Yeah. For spinal cord injuries, it's great. Sledge hockey is very challenging, but when it comes to the Olympic level, there's not a lot of spinal cord injuries on the Olympic team. Really? Because of you got to have that trunk stability. And so on the Olympic teams, it's usually amputees and spinal bifida and cerebral palsies that are that have good trunk strength and a bit of leg strength because they're sitting in that sled, and it's a pretty aggressive sport actually. So unfortunately, I had to slowly slip away from sledge hockey because I have bad shoulders from boxing for so long. I have a shoulder that keeps just dislocating, so I really have to take care of this shoulder now that my arms are my legs. So, So then I got into some hand cycling. I got to try hand cycling, which I'm starting to think that's going to be my summer sport. I really enjoy hand cycling. What is hand cycling? So hand cycling, there's different bikes, but the hand cycling racing is where you lay right out, your feet in front of you, and you're like laying right down low to the ground. Yep. It's a tire in front of you and two tires behind you, and it's all propelled by arms. Really? So, all by arms. And so, and these bikes are light.
Your arms are going to be huge.
Oh yeah, so that's what I was told. If you want to get your arms big fast, do that. Go hand cycling. So so it was actually, I enjoyed it. Okay. And then I also got into this winter. I got accepted into a nice program here in London. That's the nice thing about the disability, though. There's a lot of wonderful foundations out there. Yeah. There's a lot of things to help persons with disabilities.
Good. That's good to hear.
So it is good to hear. So So that's where I also got into a program here in London. I got to Boulder Mountain for the London Track 3 skiing. And so I got into the downhill skiing, actually, the mono skiing. So you sit in a little bucket, and it's these sports are wild. It's completely competitive.
Yeah.
You know, when you see these disabled athletes, they compete harder than able-bodied athletes. Like they take it very serious.
Yeah.
They have an eating regime. They have fitness for that sport. Things are changed differently with equipment.